All right, this is the ED Show number 90, and we are joined tonight by Craig Lewis, and you are in Salem, Massachusetts, and you're here to talk about punk rock mental health recovery. How you doing tonight, Craig?
I'm doing pretty great. How are you doing tonight, Eric?
Not too bad, man. Starting it off with a bang, man.
Excellent. Well, I'm really happy to be here with you guys, and really appreciate this opportunity to connect with you and connect with your listeners, and really just grateful to be here. So thank you so much.
Great. Hey, so you contacted me on the ED Show Fanzine page, and I took a lot of interest in it, and it was just, I'm sorry it took so long to get you on the show, but I'm happy to have you on. You want to tell us what you're all about and what you're doing, your cause?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for that question. Yeah, absolutely. I'm 42 years old, live in Salem, Mass, city of misfits, so there's 10 minutes from the water, fed love. I lived a long life of a lot of pretty serious struggles as a young person. I really was set up for life in a very damaging and dysfunctional way. My parents were obsessed with having a sick child. It's a condition called Munchausen syndrome by proxy. So my parents were obsessed with having a child who was diagnosed and treated for having a mental health issue, or what they call the mental illness, which is not really words I use anymore because I don't really believe in illness. But so I was really, as a young person, really interested in music and international, everything. I love music, and I could collect like dollar bills from foreign countries and stamps and coins, and I had pen pals that I'd connect with the back of metal magazines and punk fanzines, and my parents just were really convinced that I was experiencing psychosis when I would have pen pals and write to people in other countries, and I would call them friends, like in the punk scene. Back in the late 80s, you're into metal, you have these pen pals, and it was before the internet, that's how we communicated. And my parents, who were really just screwed up and really victims of trauma and abuse themselves, just for some reason needed to have a sick child, and decided that the fact that I was having pen pals and that I considered the people my friends, that was evidence that I was a sick, psychotic, delusional young person. And what I really was a smart, creative, interested and excited about the world kind of kid, and they couldn't have that. So basically, through a long process of my parents trying to find a doctor who would agree with them that I was actually really sick, they went from doctor to doctor, each time being told that I was fine and that they needed mental health care, and each time they were told that, they pulled me out of that doctor's care and went to find another doctor and told them the same story. And ultimately, I was put into a psych hospital, and really, I got introduced to punk rock, really pretty fully there, because of the people I met in the hospital, and that was really the beginning of my punk rock life. So my real, honest, sincere introduction to punk rock, meeting my first real punk rocker, happened on the very same day that I was institutionalized for the first time in April 13th, 1988. So I spent 4 months in that hospital. Then throughout my teenage years, just lots of group homes and diagnosis of what they called treatment-resistant schizophrenia, even though I never had a single symptom. And a lot of horrible things happened, a lot of unconscionable things. And then by the time I was 18, I was completely scarred, and my psyche, how I viewed myself, how I thought of myself, was lowest of the low. I lived a life of thinking I had no value, that I was really just human garbage. And all the time I was also going to punk shows, and that community, the punk scene, metal, hardcore, that was a place where I could be accepted, and I was accepted. As screwed up as I was accepted, and it was a safe place for me to be. And throughout the 90s and 2000s, I had my diagnosis changed to bipolar disorder, which also I now know was completely fraudulent. And my parents, needed to have a sick kid, so I became sick due to all the treatment and all the trauma, and I was on 40 different medications over 30 years, each of which that made me sicker and sicker. So didn't go to school, get education, didn't have relationships, couldn't hold a job, lived in squalor, stealing, drugs, alcohol, fighting, you name it, substandard housing, and that was my life for a very long time. At the same time, I was also fully going to punk shows and playing in different bands. I played in my last real well-known band was Melee. I played this band Melee's hardcore punk band in the really early part of the 2000s, and we had records on Lingua Armada Records and toured a bunch. But booking shows and doing the Upheaval fanzine that I've done since 1995. Haven't really put out one recently. I hope to put out an anthology of all the issues soon. But yeah, I mean, I spent all the 90s, most of the 2000s, very, very dysfunctional and very unhappy and really just very sick. Being made sick, I was certainly victimized. I was certainly sick because I was put on medications that made me sick, made me dysfunctional, caused me to not be able to think clearly. And ultimately, I hit rock bottom at some point in the 2000s, and I decided I was going to try to make things better, or I was not going to be here anymore. And I began that process, and over the course of time, I got a handle on my life to a certain degree, and went to school and started to get healthy. And I became a mental health worker, and where I'm open about my lived experience and different jobs and different kind of activities I participated in, developing different communities. And I developed a book called The Better Days, a mental health recovery workbook, as part of a support group that I created as part of my internship in school. And I continue to give this support group. And I'm a punk rocker, so I'm coming from the punk scene, and my perspectives on life and how to live it, and my understanding of really fucked up living. And I'm not shocked by much. I'm not going to be shocked by seeing some really fucked up stuff or seeing some violence, and I don't like it, but I understand it. So my perspective on this world, and also like doing the work I did all those years, even now I know I have no condition that required medication, but for most of those years, even when I began my work in mental health, and what we're going to talk about today, punk rock mental health recovery, and where I travel around the country and world, and I speak and I share my story to connect with people from the punk scene, and hopefully be empowering and inspiring and hopeful, and maybe help kind of decrease stigma about talking about addiction, mental health struggle, trauma, the lives we live that are struggles, and hopefully, I've seen so many people, as we all have, addiction, overdose, death, suicide, reckless living. I'm so sick of it, and because I find myself in a position where I'm learning about how to cope with struggles, and I'm having success in the mental health professional world and recovery world, and also my commitment to the punk scene as well, is just as far as these are my people, and I want to do something good. But also, like, I was known as a completely fucked up person. People knew how screwed up I was, and to be able to really take back my life, and I needed to be public about everything, so I've been very public about it. And here we are. I mean, now I'm very open. I travel the world speaking, and I have a book that's successful, and The Better Days workbook, which is a professional mental health book that's being embraced globally. And ridiculous. I mean, I can't believe that's my life. After all those years of being told how sick I was, and all these things are wrong with me, and here I am, like, flying around the world to speak at conferences and do this stuff. And then I have the whole punk rock mental health recovery thing going on, and I travel, and I go to conferences and do my workshops, and then I go to, in the evening, I go speak in some city and wherever I am and do a punk rock workshop, or I give my story, which is the punk rock mental health recovery story. And that's what I do. And just to give a brief, and I say brief for me is when you tell me to stop talking, but really, I'm trying to rein it in right here. So
no, keep going, man. You're doing good.
Like where I'm at right now is that I just spent a year and a half of my life getting more and more kind of dysfunctional. I had been doing really, really great, and I moved to Salem, Massachusetts, from a little further closer to Boston, and I had a wonderful woman in my life, and I'm very committed and devoted to her. And we moved here together, and things got really screwed up. And I was traumatized while I was intervening in an assault. I put myself between somebody, and a lot of things happened that were really terrible. And because I've lived a life of such trauma, and it's been so compounded and ongoing, I was traumatized, and I just stopped going to work, which I think is kind of a funny thing that if you don't understand that trauma is what it was, like to just stop going to work is kind of a not calling and just not going is kind of an unusual thing, but that's what happened. And I stopped going to work, and I stopped showering, and which of course when I was known as Krusty Craig, which I still answer that to that nickname if anyone calls me that, but usually most people just call me Krusty Craig unless they're a friend. If they're not a friend, they're just trying to identify the crazy guy, and they make sure that there's no question that it's the Krusty Craig, that not any other Craig. So that's really my experience, but I understand that. But yeah, I mean, I spent, I collapsed. I mean, my life disintegrated over the winter. Lost my relationship, and my apartment and my job, and I became, I'm gonna be honest. I was a walking corpse for a few months, and I thought I was gonna lose. I thought I was gonna die in my sleep, man. The pain was so bad, I couldn't even function. And without my cat, Max the cat, that's Max the first name, the is his middle name, Cat is his last name, Cat-Lewis, which is my last name. Without Max the cat, I probably wouldn't be here today, and without me, he wouldn't be here today because I rescued him. And well, long story short, I did survive. I got back on my feet in March, got a new job, a new apartment, and fortunately, the job I got was just atrocious. And I've been dealing with a lot of really fucked up stuff at my work, where I work as a mental health provider, and some really seriously bad things happen. And I tried to address them. I'm an authoritarian. I'm gonna speak out. I don't care what happens to me. But I'm not going to, stand by when where I'm a mental health worker and my people I work with and in my community are mistreating people. I'm going to speak out, and I did, and I paid a huge price for it. So that's going to be addressed in other ways that I'm not going to get into here, but it'll be really good for everyone involved, with the exception of some. But for me, I mean, I got really beaten down, and my trauma became more and more debilitating, and some things happened about 4 weeks ago, and I've already been living a very dysfunctional life due to all that's gone on. And over the course of the past few weeks, I've really broken down. And no doubt, last week I lost it, and I've completely lost myself this year, and I've not been myself. And in this past week, so starting like this time last week, I was the worst I've been, and as long as I can remember, and it's been a brutal year. I lost myself. I've lost some good friends because of I lost my control, and I've been saying, and I'm not trying to, I'm not glorifying it. It's awful, and I suffered. It was evidence in my suffering, and I have this extensive, brutal trauma history. And the reality is that even though that's the case, and really legitimate things caused me to just lose my control, I still did a lot of damage, and I still have to be accountable and face the reality that I've hurt some people. But I made a decision last night and today, and I've been trying very hard to pull things together, and I'm actually feeling much better right now. I feel some relief. I made a decision today that's really good for me, even though it brings a huge financial, it increases a financial stress on me that I really don't need. But I've decided that I'd rather have a financial burden that really right now is almost frightening for me to accept. I'm actually really quite calm and happy and at peace, and because I've eliminated the source of just the extreme ongoing madness that I was facing. And I sat at a coffee shop today with a loved one, talking about how to make things better. And I sat, and I don't remember the last time I sat outside and felt the wind, and it felt good. And I looked around, and people were walking their dogs, and I was like, that dog. I called the dog. I always like to give animals names that I don't know. So that dog's name was Bowser. So I called this beautiful dog sitting around Bowser, and I enjoyed the warm weather, and I've been trying to be nice to people, and I'm working at it, man. I actually feel better, and I actually saw my therapist today, and that was good. And I'm okay. And I had to tell her what happened to me, and there's no doubt that a few days ago I arranged for my cat to be taken care of when I wasn't here anymore, and I arranged for how I wanted my body processed. And I once I was gone, and I walked to the police station with the intention of doing whatever, and no longer being in pain. And that's what I did. That was just like 3 days ago. But I don't want to live like that. I don't want to have that pain. And I've stepped up right now, and I'm I'm doing what I need to do to pull myself together, and you know what? I am going to be fine.
Good.
And yeah, thank you. And the things that are fucked up in my life are also going to be the very things that have allowed me to become the person I need and want to be. And it doesn't matter about my past and other people who have done things that aren't nice and my recent abuses, and it's not my problem. And my problem is not a problem. My problem is actually brilliant. That the very things that have always been said that were wrong with me, all the problems that they said I had, and you know, they're not my problems. I'm dealing with it, and I'm going to be okay, and I am going to be okay. And I'll just add one last thing, that after all this madness over the winter with losing my partner and losing my home and my job and like really walking like a walking corpse, like I was dead inside. And as I said, this year's been brutal, but something happened this year in addition that, and I did have a psychiatrist, and I've been taking medication for 30 plus years. And I went off medication in May, and let me just say that if people benefit from medication, great. For me, it was used to hurt me. I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. Do what's right for you. Get the best information. Do what's right for you. And if it helps, wonderful. For me, medication was used to make me sick. So I went off of medication in May. The withdrawal process was absolutely horrible, but I did it. And you know, I have a psychiatrist. I don't have any psychiatrist anymore because I have no freaking condition that ever required it. Even though I spent 30 years of my life in group homes and poverty and being made sick by very powerful medications that were used to make me sick. And 5 months ago, I went off medication, and I am the clearest, healthiest, grounded person I've ever been. I'm happy and well. My brain is working well. And even with that said, even during these crises the past few days, you know, I put myself out there publicly. I'm very open. And, you know, there are people in my life who, you know, a lot of people who mean well, but they don't understand what it means to be a psychiatric survivor. So, you know, the life of a psychiatric survivor is such that you will feel at times that life is not worth living. And sometimes how we cope with that is by talking about how we feel. And I've scared a lot of people, and I understand that. But also, what people often don't understand is that this is part of being a psychiatric survivor. And it's going to happen again, but I'm going to survive it again. And that's what I do, and I just try to accept that everyone who says they care about me actually do, and try not to analyze their statements and their concerns, because they are valid and they're legitimate, and they may not understand what's really going on, but when people hear that I'm talking about, you know, not being here anymore, they have concern, and that's legitimate, and I will respect that, and I will not contest that, even as I know that most people couldn't possibly comprehend what it's like to be a victim of psychiatry and survive in the way I have. So that's my story, man, and I'm grateful that it's today. I'm about to eat a wonderful dinner, and my cat is here. He's well. I'll have a loved one, and life's going to be okay. So, you know, here we go. Like, what did we say? It was going to be a 5-minute intro, and I just talked and talked and talked, but that's what happened, and I really appreciate you letting me do my thing.
Sure,
so
man.
Thank you.
Sure, man. I had a lot of questions that I wanted to ask you, but you know, as you talked, other things came up. But you said 2000, you decided to take things in your own hands, and I mean, I imagine you went through withdrawals, not just to mention one thing, but just seeing the world in new eyes. I don't know if that's a good way of putting it, but what was that like?
You know, thank you. You know, I'll just clarify. In 2004, I hit rock bottom. I had a very public meltdown, and I had a public meltdown, and you know, my community really abandoned me. And abandonment for me is it's a chronic, ongoing thing that I've experienced. So, I publicly melted down, and I decided at that point that I was either going to not be here anymore or make things better. And I've been arrested several times. I had been horrendously violent to some people. Not what I wanted, not who I am, but I was sick. I was made sick. It's just the way it is. I wasn't in control of myself. Not because I didn't want to be in control, and I just was not in control because I was forcefully made out of control. I mean, I don't know if people can grasp that, but yeah, so I got a therapist, and she was wonderful, and she told me that my experiences were valid, that my reactions to those experiences were legitimate, and then if I trusted her, she would do everything in her power to help me transcend those struggles and learn how to cope and live a happier, healthier life. And I owe her that, man. I mean, what a wonderful experience. I mean, that was good as done, and she just she gave me that, and she believed in me, and I took that and I ran. And the moment I found out that people like me got better, that people would be in my corner, and that it was recognized by others that I was ready to make things better, and people engage with me in that way, wow, I took that ball and I've run with it ever since. And it's been a lot of ups and downs, and since then a lot of brutal stuff has happened, no doubt. And I've crossed the tightrope of I've crossed the tightrope, you know, without a net and without a chain or anything, over like the sea of despair with lots of hungry, I don't know, sea monsters waiting to chop me up, and
well,
somehow I didn't fall in.
Well, I'm glad to see that you're coming back out of it. From talking to you today, I would have never known you had something happen a couple weeks ago. You know,
it was a couple days ago. Yeah.
You know, so you know, I'm glad. I don't to have these little hurdles or big hurdles come up in your life as you go on and stuff, and to accomplish what you've done. I hope that keeps you driving forward. You know, to look at all the, you know, 2 books, and then you said one of them successful. How long did it take you to do the 2 books? I mean, what made you do it?
Well, the Better Days Mental Health Recovery Workbook is it began as part of an internship when I first went to school, and I had did 300 hours of an internship at a rehabilitation center for people with, well, I think a day center for people with different kinds of mental health struggles. And part of what I was required to do for that internship is create something to contribute. So I proposed the idea that I'd do a support group called Better Days. And I began giving the group once a week, and people came and appreciated it. I had no idea what I was doing. I had not a clue about what I was doing. I just did it. And finished my internship. You know, I worked in different places, and I volunteered in different centers, and I continued to just once a week I'd write this curriculum. I did a passage and a questionnaire about all sorts of topics, you know, about my struggle. You know, like some of the pages are, so in the book there's 37 passages and worksheets, and some of the passages are the worksheets are one's like biting your tongue, because I had to learn the hard way that, you know, and I know, I'm sure people out there will know what I mean when I talk about, you know, I had to learn the hard way that, for example, when I say, for example, when I was really upset and not feeling well, and it's the middle of the night, and I would write a 25 chapter email to somebody that would piss me off, and you know, in that I see the smile building on your face, because you know, like that, like, you know, at 3 o'clock in the morning when you write that angry, furious email, and then you send it when it's like a 5-page chapter, you know that, and you think you know you're right in the moment, you're pissed off and you're right, but the next day when you get that response, or you hear from someone who says, yeah, we need to make sure that you have a psychiatric evaluation before we let you back here, you know, it's like, all right, I need to learn how to not get myself in trouble like that anymore. So I had to learn that, you know, biting your tongue, that's like a passage in this book here, because I had to learn that, well, when I'm feeling like that, maybe what I need to not do is like open up my mouth without thinking, or take an action to address something without making sure I've relaxed or I've calmed down enough, or I've been able to process. Because when I open up my mouth when I'm angry and have not thought, and I'm already set off and ready to rock and rumble, gets me in trouble every time. So, and that's one of my favorite passages and worksheets from the workbook, because it's relevant to all of us, whether you're a person with a mental health struggle, addiction, trauma, punk rocker, or whatever. So yeah, that's an example of it. And somehow 2 years ago this month, I had some friends help me out and very DIY and put it into book form, and I'm not going to tell you how many have sold, but it's a lot, and it's changed my life radically, forever, and it brings me places. So I mean, next month I'm being flown to Memphis to be a keynote speaker at the National United States Recovery Conference, and that's pretty freaking awesome because all the other speakers that they have like, I don't know, master's degrees, or like they're the directors of agencies or vice presidents, and I'm like, the only reason why they know who I am is because I wrote this book. Like, I don't even really have a job, and I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent right now, at least.
Oh, no.
I'll figure it out. But I mean, I'm getting to do this stuff because I wrote some book, and I'm being included with people who are like making tons, not I want to say tons of money, but they have positions where like they have a car and like a desk and a office and a title, and they're a vice president or a director, and I'm like, and they have a master's degree. And I'm like, yeah, I barely graduated high school, and I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent in 2 days, but yeah, I wrote a book, and somehow you guys are appreciating it, and here I am. So I'm just going with it, and I'm not afraid. And well, I am afraid of a lot of things, to be honest, but just because I'm afraid of it doesn't mean I'm not going to dive in. I'm going to dive in anyways. That's what I do.
Well, it sounds to me like you always find a leg to stand on, man, and just keep doing that, man. I'm real happy to have you on here tonight, Craig. I want to have you back on again. I wanted to ask you, do you have a website?
I get a couple. Both websites are being redone right now.
Okay.
To find out about the workbook, people can go to www.betterdaysrecovery.com. They can go there and they can read about me and download. You can download sample pages. The book's about to be published in French and German and then Spanish. And people can go to Amazon and search for the book, Better Days, the Mental Health Recovery Workbook. And right now there's 41 flawless reviews, they're all great. It's amazing. And but I encourage people to please not get it on Amazon because they take a huge cut. So if they can get it through my website, that's much better for me. But they can do what they have to do. If people can email me at betterdaysrecovery@gmail.com. And the other website is called www.punksinrecovery.com. That's PUNKS in recovery.com. And that's also being redone right now. So within a month or so, it's going to be all new and stuff. And that has a lot of information about the events I do. And it's actually going to be much better very soon. A lot of content being added to both websites. Tons of stuff are being added. Changes are being made. And on that website as well, people checking it out will find more about the other book I have. This is You're Crazy Volume 1, which is 27 first-hand accounts. A lot of people from the punk scene who deal with mental health struggle, addiction, and trauma. So that book's what I have with me when I travel, and both books I have with me when I travel. And when I speak to people in the punk scene and talk about my experiences, there's so many of us who have had these kind of experiences that have not really felt like they've been understood, and to be able to be, have their lives, their experiences legitimized, and to have no more shame, to take that shame away and take away that stigma, and say, you know what, like people might think I'm this or I'm that, or I'm a problem, or they've learned this about me, or they heard this, or they think this, but the reality is that all people are just doing the best they can. We're all products of our experiences, and we're all just having reasonable responses to unreasonable situations. So a lot of us, we learn the hard way growing up in abusive households, or seeing violence or trauma, or who knows what kind of stuff happens, and we become how we go. We learn how to cope with this, how we're taught, or what we experience. And we get to be adults, and especially in the punk scene, we're often these very dysfunctional people because of what we experience. Good people, I think good people, but we're really fucked up in some ways, and we come together because we get each other. It's like, well, you're fucked up and I'm fucked up, and that's cool. But what also happens is, if we're getting together when we're fucked up and we're doing our things, we don't know how to actually live lives in a way that's going to be safe and healthy and happy for us, we get ourselves in trouble. And I'm so sick of seeing people die and from so many bad ways and suffering, and I don't like it, and I want to do something about it. So this book and the Your Crazy book series and speaking about my experiences to people in the punk scene around the world, I want to help people be liberated. I want people to be able to be understood and to know they're not alone, and that if I can do what I've done with what I've been through to make things better, then they sure as hell can as well. And when they go to punksrecovery.com, they can find that the call for contributions for the next volume of the book. So volume 2 is being edited. It will be out very soon, so I can actually get my shit together. And then volume 3 will fill out some stories so people can go and read about the guidelines and their frequently asked questions, and they can contribute their story. And I just ask that when they go there, they can ignore the deadline, because I think it's from a year ago, but life's been pretty screwed up, so they can also just contact me with any questions, and I would love for them to do that. So,
cool.
Let me just hold up for you the book covers. So this is The Better Days, a Mental Health Recovery Workbook, and I think it looks backwards on your screen, but
no.
Here's the Your Creativity Volume 1.
No, it's right. It's right. Hold it up.
Cool.
Keep it there. Keep it there. Cool.
So
awesome. I'm gonna have to definitely get those. I try making it a point of any guests I have on the show. I try to get them ahead of time, and I'm sorry I never got around to ordering them, man. So, but by the next time we have you back on, Craig, I will have those in my hot hands right here, and hopefully I would have read them both. So,
you can definitely write to me or call me anytime, and we can say you can get them for me directly. So let's make that happen.
Sure. And
right on.
Hopefully the next time we talk, I won't be so sweaty and stuff. Hopefully it's not too cold up there for you, and it's perfect down here. I mean, perfect for me down here is 30, 40 degrees and having the windows open. I like it really cold. I mean, if I had my way at work, I'd walk around shirtless in the walk-in cooler. I mean, I'm just one of those people. It's always hot. I just.
Well, you know what? I have an idea. Perhaps if you'd like to come spend the summers your winters up here, because it's too hot for you down there, you can certainly come here and enjoy the freezing cold and the ice cold sleet and the puddles and the walking down the street and slipping on your ass and the snowbanks up to your shoulders and walking by a puddle and getting a car drive by and splash you with dirty ice. And yeah, man, anytime you want, man, I'd love to come down in the winter and just enjoy the hot weather and maybe go for a dip in a pool and make it happen. Anytime you want, you let me know. We'll make that switch.
Sure. It's all new to me, man. It's all new to me. I'd try it. But yeah, Craig, thanks again for being on. You're a great guest. I look forward to having you on again. Anybody you want to say hi to or anything before we conclude this?
Yes, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you to you, Eric, for reaching out to me. I'm glad you're wearing a shirt. And I know it's hot there. Next time, as I said, previously, we can do the shirtless thing if that works for you. But I'd rather not. But I want to. I like having solidarity. So if you're sweating, what's up down there. Then
man.
I want to be with on the same page. But thanks to everybody listening. I want to send a big hello to my little boy Max the cat, who's my best friend over here, sitting on a pile of crap on the floor. He's owning it. He's guarding it that I have to search through and organize because I'm very, very messy. I'm trying to fix that. So Max the cat's over there. My love is sitting over here across the room, and just hello to her and thanks to her. And I know I sent this link out for the show to many people as I could, so I'm hoping that some of those people out there that I invited will be able to check this out, and I know many said they would. So I want to say hello to everybody, all the people out there who've been supportive to me and thankful. I want to express my gratitude to them, and I also, I suspect that some people, especially with what I've been through recently, I do put this out all very directly and openly. So I put it out on my Facebook, and I've connected with lots of people that I've been very nice to recently. So I'm hoping that some of those people will check this out as well. And to those people, I want to say thank you for your understanding and empathy and patience. And I really appreciate that, that you're giving me a chance to get myself together and know that I'm not a bad person and know that I had an extreme experience and that I'm dealing with that and trying to take steps to make things better. So to any of those people out there who have experienced me in the past week and month with my just absolute off the charts shit that I've been saying and doing because I've been so just sick with trauma and just viciously out of control, I want to say sorry to you people and let you know I apologize and I acknowledge that I was extremely fucked up. It's not who I am, not who I want to be, and I'm doing everything I can to make sure that I handle things better. And whether I'm open about this stuff, man. I'm a punk rocker, anti-authoritarian. I speak out against fucked up shit. I don't care about my personal stuff being out there. It's actually helpful for me to do so and helpful for others to know it. Some people use it against me. I really don't care if they do. But, it's important to be an example that can help others. And the meaning and purpose I get from being able to have these opportunities to reach out and show how I want to live and be, even if I'm flawed and fucked up, and this week's been a very flawed and fucked up week, for others to see that and that I'm owning it and I'm acknowledging that things happened and what happened and why, but also saying that I'm taking steps to address it. I want that to be something that people hear and know, because we're from a community of people who have made a lot of mistakes during extreme situations, and we hurt people sometimes, and I don't want to hurt people, and I want to show that we can do these things and be accountable for them and make things better. And I think that's a very valuable thing to share and put out there. So to everyone out there who has experienced me in any way recently, thank you for your understanding, and just keep up the fight.
All right, Craig. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Craig. I got to wrap this up. So I'll talk to you off the air soon, and thanks for being a great guest. Good luck.
Thank you. Be well. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Good on.